systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What is going on, SHIPIT Nation YouTube station today on a very fun Saturday? Going to be breaking down 6 NBA games tonight, all lock within 1 hour. Recording here at 11:42 on the West Coast, so just outside of 4 hours until we lock. I'm going to use this as kind of our first initial thought process, breaking down the slate before we dive into the slate plan and hop into the Discord. But like I said, exciting day. It's Saturday. We got some UFC tonight. You know, if you guys aren't a member of SHIPIT Nation, you know, go ahead and sign up here. I'll flash the quick promo that we're running. We're still running the Black Friday 50. Hop in here. We have lock in, 3.5-ish hours for UFC. We have great content over there, which I will be looking into and donating some lineups into UFC tonight. So everybody jump on there and utilize this. Obviously, football season, we're in full swing, got a bunch of winners. So utilize this as before it goes away. We're very close to taking it away. So utilize that. But we're here to talk about some NBA games. Very excited for this slate. You know, I like games that all start together. You don't have to sit behind your computer all night. Unfortunately, tonight with the prize pools that we do have for the NBA and all games starting so close, we won't have a showdown slate plan, as I believe the prize pool is like 30 grand. I think it's only 10K up top. So we got some pressure to make some good lineups because we can't catch them and make some money back on showdown like we do whenever we might have a tough call or an injury on the main slate. But opening up with a very intriguing spot here with the Nuggets and the Wizards. Let me make sure we're all set up here. Wonderful. Interesting first game here with Joker playing so well at 12-1. But we get Nuggets at Wizards. Nuggets are 14-point favorites. 233.5, or no, now that's up, it's going to be 234.5. So kind of moving, an extra point in favor of the Nuggets since I started kind of looking at the game. And I believe this is a Nuggets blowout, but let's go through some of these plays. First and foremost, let's talk injuries. Aaron Gordon today was downgraded to questionable. Saric is questionable, and Jamal Murray is questionable, as well as the injury plague hitting the Wizards with Brogdon out, Kuz out, Kispert out, and George out. We'll start with the Nuggets before we get into some of the value for the Wizards. Let's start with scenarios first. If everybody plays for the Nuggets, which was what I assume, I mean, Saric really isn't in the mix to worry about. But if Gordon and Jamal Murray are in, I do have interest in Aaron Gordon at 5,800, as well as the field as we've projected at 26% ownership. I believe that his price is just a little too cheap, so I'm willing to go for that in a pace-up spot with the Wizards. We'll call it a pace-up, but we'll call it an uglier game to take advantage of. Obviously, Joker at 12-1, probably going to be one of the more popular plays on the slate minus some value, and rightfully so. Guy prints 70, 80 bombs, has extreme upside. I am a little worried about blowout risk here. Like I said, the game has moved an extra point in favor of the Nuggets, and 14 is a lot of points. And we could see the same situation that Luka had a couple nights ago where he absolutely smashed their 3 quarters, didn't see any fourth quarter run. I can anticipate the same thing here for Joker. We'll get to the Luka Joker stuff here in a little bit when I get to the Mavs. But like I said, if Gordon's in, I want to play Gordon. If Murray's in, I don't really want to touch Murray. I think his price tag is fair. And with Joker on the floor, no thank you. If Murray is out, I would anticipate Russell Westbrook getting the start at 5,700. He will be popular, but rightfully so. Call it a revenge narrative for one of like the 7 teams he's played for over the last couple of years. But I think 5,700 in this matchup versus the Wizards would be considered good chalk. If Aaron Gordon is out, don't mind a little Peyton Watson at 4,400. He might catch some steam as well. I think that's just a little too cheap. We're paying like the high fours, low fives for him when Joker was out. So I really don't mind that at all. Really all I have for this game. I mean, if Murray and Gordon are out, I believe it's an automatic, kind of smash spot for Joker, as they always are, but that would kind of lean me more off of the Luka stuff in the 1v1 versus them. But I anticipate one of those two guys playing. Don't know which way it's going to go. For the Wizards side, this is where the interesting value kind of comes into play. We'll start from the top with Jordan Poole at 6,900. That price is very inviting. I will not be playing Jordan Poole unless we have Nuggets on the run back. That's kind of where I stand. I absolutely would hate making a lineup tonight that has a solo Poole with no Nuggets run back, or even like a Joker Poole. That doesn't sound very fun for me tonight, so I'm not going to go there. Bub Carrington at 4-4, he's going to be popular. He might be the most popular player on the slate. Rightfully so. I can see him in line for 30 minutes with the injuries that they have, and just under a fantasy point per minute producer. I believe this is also good chalk. We also, what I did not add at the start was right before we went, or before I started to record, Sar got the late questionable tag. Those midday questionable tags are interesting. I would kind of lean that he is out tonight. If he's in, I don't mind him. Koulibaly at 52. I believe this is kind of a sneakier spot to get different away from this Bub Carrington chalk, but I don't mind playing both. So I kind of fall into the side that, hey, I'm more leaning toward Luka today over Joker. And if that's the case, I don't mind playing these value pieces like Carrington or like Koulibaly, but no Pool for me, like I said, unless it's a game stack. Going a little bit farther down, I think Joe Val at 53. I think he'll continue to start. I believe they're going to need him versus Joker. Everybody loves to play him, and rightfully so. That guy can produce fantasy minutes like no other. If he does get really steamed up, I would be really nervous with the fade just because he could produce so many fantasy points in such little time. But if Sar's out, automatically lock Valanciunas. And then we get to the bench guys, which are interesting. Bagley, he played like 20 some odd minutes, had 30 some odd fantasy points. He's up to 4-3. If Sar's out, absolutely, I'm down with this. But that's just another center. I mean, just in this first game, we have 3 possible centers that we could play, with DraftKings only offering, max 2, obviously. And as we get going down the slate, it's going to be kind of hard as we keep going through these centers. But before we move on, Jared Butler at 36, I think outranks Champagnie for me at 35. It's going to be pretty close with the value, but I am a little hesitant. If this game does blow out, I believe they get run, but who knows what they could produce in the time. Obviously, with the small sample side, Jared Butler at 2.15 fantasy points per minute isn't going to be true as he plays more minutes, but I'm okay with Butler over Champagnie, but both are okay. So to reiterate, before I move on, I think I spent a little bit too much time on this game from the Nuggets side. I'm going to lean Luka over Joker, but that's more of an ownership play. And with the possible blowout with the Wizards, if Gordon does play, I like Gordon. If Murray does play, I don't want to play him. If Murray and Gordon are out, load up the Westbrook, load up the Watson. Moving on to Thunder and Pelicans. At Pelicans, Thunder 8.5-point favorites with 225 total. Chet obviously out, Zion out, Jose Alvarado out, and then Daniel Tice questionable tag today. Let's start with, like, automatically you can load up SGA and Jalen Williams and Isaiah Hartenstein. Kind of that upper tier, middle upper tier, and then that upper, lower middle tier. But, 7.4 is kind of an interesting spot. Again, another center that we're talking about. I feel like we're going to talk about every center on this slate. All 3 of those guys are in play. They're all averaging a fantasy point per minute with no Chet. Well more than that, but at least a fantasy point per minute with no Chet. Hartenstein, was getting steamed up after, I believe, it was 4 straight double-double since coming back from injury. Obviously, his ownership is down today after back-to-back games. I think he had 2 points in 4 real-life points in back-to-back games. I don't mind going back to the well here to kind of get a little bit different. But again, another center. SGA at 10-2, I mean, offers great floor, great upside. Obviously, a different avenue to save some salary from a Joker, from a Luka. So absolutely love that. A matchup with the Pelicans is one that we want to attack. Obviously, with the Pelicans having a lot of their guys back, minus Zion, it's a little bit different, but I'm okay with that. Jalen Williams is going to rank out from the bottom 3, or third in the 3 of the, quote, studs for the Thunder. 8,900, I get it, but Hartenstein back, rebound has kind of come down. Obviously has block and or stock block and steal upside versus the Pelicans, but 8,900, I'm gonna get away from that. I'd rather go Hartenstein. I'd rather go SGA. Dort at 46, his price is down. I don't mind that. But really, since Caruso is going to be back, you have Dort, Joe, Wallace, Mitchell, Caruso, Wiggins. That's just a jumbled mess. You're kind of throwing darts to figure out who's going to get the minutes, who's going to produce. And I don't think that I'm going to get there tonight. But you can play a couple of these guys off the bench in a blowout spot. Maybe you want to get to two of these studs tonight. I don't mind playing a couple of these Thunder guys in big tournaments and hoping that there is no fourth quarter run for the starters and they could produce first, a Pelicans, bench unit. But going over to the Pelicans side, I mean, with Ingram, CJ, Trey Murphy, DeJounte Murray, all back, they're all logging, mid 30s in minutes. One, not only is it a tougher matchup versus the Thunder, but they're all taking usage from each other. So I believe all these guys are priced fairly, and I believe it becomes really hard to kind of narrow down, which guy you're gonna play here. And when you have 8K, 7-1, 8-3, 6-4 off the bench, I mean these are tough price tags to not only meet value but to exceed value to win tournaments. And I don't think I'm going to get cute and play any of those guys today. If I had to pick a favorite, it's going to be CJ at 71. He's been playing really well. I think he is, obviously he is the cheapest salary, but I think he offers the best upside because of that 7-1 salary. But essentially no ownership coming into these guys. I will mention another center in Missy at 5,200. I believe this is a really sneaky spot for him. Everybody got their mid 30s minutes. He did not. He got 25 versus Phoenix. But I think this is, a good spot that we can attack Hartenstein and at essentially no ownership on a 6-game slate at 5,200. I believe, he would fall into the player pool for me. But that's it. Really just Missy. I don't want to get cute with any of these Pelicans guys. Yes, if I had to pick one, I would go CJ. And then for the Thunder side, it's really just the main three for me in SGA, Hartenstein, and then Williams. Hartenstein, SGA, and Williams would be my rankings for those. Moving into Pistons and the Knicks. Interesting game here with Cat and Brunson, as well as Campaign, all questionable. Thompson for the Pistons is also questionable. But the Knicks, 9.5-point favorites at 225 total. Let's start with the Pistons side before we kind of break down some of these possible outcomes for the Knicks. For the Pistons sides, it's just going to be Cade for me at 96. Guy prints 50 bombs and offers you a really good floor. Just don't play him in big games versus the Milwaukee Bucks. That's pretty much it. That was his worst game of the season. Really his only stinker that we've had a chance to roster him in. But love him tonight versus the Knicks and don't mind the play at all. As we kind of go down the rest of the roster, we'll get Ivy out of there. We'll get Hardaway out of there. We'll get Harris out of there. Ivy's price just a little too expensive for me. Kind of still priced up from when, Cade wasn't playing. And rightfully so, is a fair tag with no Cade, but with Cade back, no thank you. No Tobias Harris, above the 6Ks. Him and I have a hate relationship, and I'm going to take him out of my player pools tonight. Nobody really off the bench except for Isaiah Stewart, but let's talk about Duren first. Sub 6K Duren versus, Karl Anthony Towns defense. Interesting spot. He has not been playing well, but definitely a low-owned center play as we keep going every game. I think I might talk about every center, like I said. Low-owned, sneaky kind of spot. I believe he has double-double upside here, even though his minutes have kind of been in question. I wouldn't get to him in my first 20 lineups, but if you're making 50, 75, 150 lineups, I really don't mind going there. As well as Isaiah Stewart, beef stew off the bench. He's shown us the upside. Now his tag's under the 4K. Has not been playing well, but again, on a 6-game slate where a lot of ownership is going to go to, studs, you're going to need some value. And if you don't really love the Wizards' value or you need multiple pieces, again, another 50 lineup, 75 lineup, 150 lineup type play. But I'm just waiting for another game where he gets into the high 20s, and a high 20s at 3,900 would be very, profitable tonight. Let's talk some scenarios for the New York Knickerbockers. Let's start first is I think all these guys play. If one was to miss, I think it's either going to be Campaign or Brunson or both of them, but I would assume Cap plays. I don't really know when that injury news came out. I think it was this morning. I just, woke up this morning and saw notifications, saw him. After this, I'll dive in and kind of see when that notification came out, because that could mean a lot. But all these guys for Charlotte played like almost 40 minutes. I think Bridges played like mid 40s minutes, essentially played the whole game versus Charlotte in a 24-point blowout. Really interesting. Tibbs just running these guys, and you have to love it for DFS purposes. Don't know how the longevity of the season will last, but it is great from a DFS perspective. If all of them play, I want to load up Cat, and I love me some OG at 6K. I think if Cat plays, Hart is a little tough for me to get to at 7K. Bridges is okay at sub 6K at 5,800. But if he's garnering ownership, I might want to kind of get off some of that, as we have it projected at 23%. If it stays at that number, I don't think I want to go there, but I don't hate the play at sub 6K. No Brunson for me. Just not offering, upside at its tag with all of these guys here. And we have some other options in the guard spot that are either going to be cheaper or more expensive than that. So I'm going to stay away from that. If Campaign is out, don't mind me some Deuce McBride at 4K. I think he has the opportunity to get to mid, maybe even high 20 minutes, and just kind of obviously be the sixth man, but kind of be the only real rotation piece that comes in and plays. 4K is a nice juicy tag, especially with Brunson being a little banged up. He might not play his full allotment of minutes. Campaign's in. I can't really get to either one of those guys down below. Obviously, if Brunson's out, load up Deuce. If Brunson and Pate are out, Deuce McBride were probably the most popular play on the slate, I would say. But to reiterate, it's going to be, it's going to be all the Deuce if either one of the guards are out. It's going to be Cat and OG for me, ranking the highest. And if for some reason Cat is out, I believe OG is a total smash spot, because I believe OG will play center. And if OG is playing center at 6K, you get an extra center in a small forward or power forward slot. So that's where I kind of sit on that game. Did I miss anything here before we move on? Not really. Don't love the game, but you have to, because these Knicks guys are going to play huge minutes. Here comes the interesting game on the slate. Mavericks at Raptors. Mavs 8.5-point favorites in a 234.5 total. Najee Marshall's out. Hardy's doubtful. Olynyk is questionable. Pirtle's questionable, and Davion Mitchell is questionable. The decision for me on the slate is going to be Luka versus Joker, as I believe everybody's going to have that decision. Luka, since coming back from injury, has gone for 72, 70, and 58 DraftKings points. That 58 was a blowout versus Washington, in which he played, I believe it was 0 time in the fourth quarter. I believe everybody's fallen into the Joker side, which will lead Luka to be less owned. I love Luka tonight for that case. I don't really want to get to any of these Mavs aside from Luka. Luka's been playing well after the wrist injury, and he becomes, the ball carrier, the ball hog. Ball hog's the wrong word, but he becomes the offense. And 11.4, I think his tag might be a touch too cheap if he gets his full allotment of minutes, in which I believe this game can stay close with the Raptors getting all their pieces back minus quickly. The real other decision is talking about more centers, is Lively and Gafford to attack, Pirtle. I think Pirtle plays. He missed last game with an illness. If he does play, we want to attack him and how bad his defense is. Lively's getting more minutes, but Gafford is being more productive in those minutes. I am still going to lean Lively in this spot. I think he's going to get more run versus Pirtle and get a few extra minutes. I believe Gafford can still be really, really productive off of the bench, but I'm just going to lean Lively in the situation. No Kyrie at 85, no Clay in limited minutes at 48. PJ Washington, I could see avenues to get sneaky at a sub 7K price tag. But with Luka back, he really has to shoot the ball well and, flirt with that double-double as far as rebounds go. So no thank you for me. Going over to the Raptors side, they finally priced Scotty Barnes appropriately. 9.5, I think, is the perfect tag for him, as well as RJ Barrett. I believe 8,400 is the perfect tag for him. Both those guys are, great plays. Scotty Barnes is going to rank out higher just because he is point guard Scotty Barnes. The offense goes through him. He demands the basketball, and he takes a ton of shots. RJ Barrett as well, obviously, kind of the Robin to his Batman, 8,400. I don't mind it, but I really like Scotty a lot more. In this situation with the price tags, I'm going to max one Barnes and Barrett. But my real favorite play is if Pirtle plays at 7,300. I believe this is another great spot for him. He's been producing well for us all season. 7.3 is a touch too cheap. I believe the right tag should be like 7.7, 7.8, maybe even 7.9. But load me up on the Pirtle if he does play, coming off an illness and missing a game. Everybody else, down here on the bench, if everybody plays, is a no-go for me. If Pirtle was to be out, we have last game we had 19 minutes for Bruno. He did lose the start in the second half to Mogbo, and he's at 4,100 and played 22 minutes. I'm going to load up the Mogbo at 41. If Pirtle is out, I believe he gets to start again. He will be popular as people saw him play more minutes than Bruno, but also take the start in the second half. But yeah, all the Mogbo 41. If Pirtle's out, he'll be finding my lineups. But to reiterate, Scotty Barnes over Barrett for me. Love Pirtle the best if he does play, and I will be leaning Luka over Joker as of right now, 4 hours until lock. And if I had to make a decision between both of the centers for the Mavericks, it's going to be Lively in more minutes versus Pirtle than Gafford. 2 games left here. Interesting game for the Grizzlies and Celtics with the 6.5 point spread. I thought this spread would have been a little higher. As I am reminded, though, the Grizzlies have been playing well. I believe their record is 15-8, which is not what I anticipated from the Grizzlies, especially when they're running, this crazy wannabe Steve Kerr Warriors rotation where everybody's seemingly getting minutes. As far as injuries goes, Horford is out. Porzingis has the questionable tag. Derek White is probable. He's going to play. And Marcus Smart is questionable with the possible revenge game narrative if he does play. The Grizzlies, man, it's been really tough to roster. And I kind of throw them in a bucket with the Timberwolves that I've been okay this season, just not playing some of these guys. Ja Morant at 8,800, no thank you. Don't want to get to that. There's a reason why he's going to be 1% owned. I don't believe there's upside at that tag in his current role. Coming in with some ownership, and the second highest as far as ownership goes, well, Marcus Smart, so third, but tied for second as our first run of projections for ownership come out is Desmond Bane at 6,600. This is really interesting for me. We, over the last, couple of weeks, we've talked about it a few times, but the Celtics have been, really good versus the catch and shoot and seemingly giving up buckets at the rim to not give up catch and shoot threes. And Desmond Bane, that's where I believe you're going to get his upside. He gets hot behind the 3-point line. And at 6,600 with some ownership, it's going to be a no for me just because of the matchup with the Celtics. Price tag looks great. I think he gets about 30 minutes in this spot, but it's going to be tough for me to see extreme upside at 6,600 because the Celtics are so good at catch and shoot stuff. If he's projected somewhere between 3% and 6%, I can definitely get behind it now that he does offer upside and is lower owned, but at his double-digit percentage, no thanks for me. Brandon Clark is getting some love. Not going to be for me. I mean, it's, an okay spot, but again, you're going to eat up a pretty popular position here with power forward / center, where we want to play a lot of other guys. And I believe we can find 4K value in other places, especially if he's going to flirt with 20% ownership. So no, thank you. Marcus Smart, I will consider that good chalk. If he does end up playing in a revenge narrative, he seems like one of those guys that, would want to go back to Boston and play really well. So there's one, but also two, his price is too cheap at 44. If he does get his, low 20s in minutes, I believe he can really smash that tag. So I'm going to check Marcus Smart as good chalk. Desmond Bane, I will play if he is essentially unowned, but as he gains ownership, no thank you for me, and hopes that the Celtics continue this run of very good catch and shoot defense, and no Brandon Clark for me. I guess I did not touch on JJJ. He's frustrating to roster, and it's not going to be a spot for me. Obviously offers upside at 7,200, but it's going to be a no for me. Moving over to the Celtics side, when I first saw this spread, I immediately thought that Porzingis wasn't going to play. I'm reminded again that, the Grizzlies have been playing well. So I think whether, or not he plays or not, I think this line doesn't move very much. If he does play, I will project him right around 30 minutes with like a max of 32 minutes. If you just did, basic math on the season with his 1.3 fantasy point per minute rating, he gets his 30 minutes, he has the ability to meet value with upside at 7,500. Unfortunate, it's another center we're talking about. We're going to need 6 center slots tonight. But I really do like Porzingis. After Porzingis, it's going to be a mismatch of Tatum, Brown, and White. I believe if Porzingis plays, I'm going to lean on Derek White at 6,900. If he's out, I'm going to want to go to Tatum at under 10K. That would be, kind of the only 2 guys I would consider rostering. I think Jaylen Brown right now, yes, been playing well, 8,400. I don't want to get into that. So that's where it is. Drew Holiday's been playing well. He's had 3 games of 36, 34, and 34 minutes. But he played really well last night, and at 5K, I think this would be a good spot for him not to get as much run and to get him back into those low 20s in minutes. If not, just take the game off entirely. Obviously, we don't have that news, but I would not be surprised as we get closer to lock that Drew Holiday sits this one out. If that's the case, obviously Peyton Pritchard at 5,600 becomes very interesting. Before last game where he had a stinker, he's taking double-digit threes in like 3 or 4 straight games. 6th man of the year. Shout out to Rio talking about that on the very first show of the day or of the year. But 5,600, you're starting to get up there in price. Same with Sam Hauser, 5,100. He's starting to get up there in price. So I'm not going to fall in love with this. I'm not going to touch either one of those guys off the bench if there is no extra injury news. But, Porzingis is going to be my favorite with no Horford and projecting him for 30 minutes. I think I covered everything in that game. Porzingis is out. Love Jason Tatum. All right, guys, last game to finish up. I told myself I was going to be a little bit shorter today, 27 minutes. Let's see if I can get this done in a 30-minute window. Suns at Heat. No Nurk, no KD. Ryan Dunn is questionable, and Jimmy Butler is probable. It's not frustrating. It sucks that we have Devin Booker at 9,400 and Bradley Beal at 7,900. Obviously, with no KD, we want to attack and play both of these guys. But at these tags, they're very fair. I'd say the Booker one is a little too fair, a little too expensive for me. But it's just a tough price for Devin Booker. Price is up, assists are down. Yes, no KD, but not a spot for me. Going back, I think I missed, the Heat are 6-point favorites and a 221.5 total. So not necessarily the best game environment on the slate, but not a bad one either. But no Devin Booker for me. I think I wouldn't play him until with no KD, I wouldn't play him until, he's sub 9K, maybe even like 8,800. Beal, absolutely not. For me, at least, he just is so dependent on his shooting. He's at 8K. I mean, we're going to need 7.9, but we're going to need him to score 40 essentially to meet our value. And I don't think we see very much upside at 50 or 55 in this spot versus the Heat. I would anticipate Royce O'Neal at 5,400 getting the start for KD. Mason Plumlee did get the start last time out with no Nurk. It's just really Plumlee for me. He's, good fantasy minute or fantasy point per minute producer. We can anticipate him getting his mid to high 20s. I believe this is another good spot for value. Looking back on like the Brandon Clark stuff, I'd rather play Mason Plumlee. But again, another center, man. Like this slate is going to be really tough to distinguish, especially with Plumlee gathering so much ownership in a decent spot where he could get his mid 20s of minutes. Grayson Allen off the bench at 5,100. It's going to be no. He's coming off, I believe it was a 40-point DraftKings game. Offers you a decent floor, but at 51, the floor is gone, and obviously showed upside last time out, but he had 6 rebounds and 10 assists in that spot. We cannot continue or can anticipate his production continuing at those rates. Kind of similar to the IO stuff the other night. He was kind of essentially went unowned and his price stayed the same or went up a little bit, and he's still in a great spot in a 250 total coming off, season high rebounds, season high assists. Really tough to repeat those instances back to back. So no Grayson for me. But to reiterate the Sun side, it's just Plumlee at 4-2. I can see avenues where you're game stacking and you're getting off some of these studs, and maybe they all don't show any upside tonight, and you can play Devin Booker or Bradley Beal, but not for me tonight. Didn't touch on Tyus Jones, 6K. I mean, I can get behind that, but he's about $500 too cheap in my mind. Moving over to the Heat, I hate to end the video like this, but this is a really tough spot. Again, prices are fair. Decent matchup, decent pace. They are favored. Duncan Robinson and Highsmith, they're in the starting lineups, but they're really low floor guys. No Highsmith at all for me. I guess you can get behind some Duncan Robinson just because he knows his 3-point upside. And he is one of these guys in the league that not only does he have the 3-point upside, but when he starts to hit shots, they just let him shoot and let him shoot contested, fading away, fading sideways, run plays for him. So, yeah, only if you're okay, burning lineups whenever he doesn't hit shots. But when we talk about Hero, Butler, and Bam, these guys are priced fairly and accordingly. And it'll be tough to kind of distinguish between those three at 77, 76, and 8,200, which way you would like to go. So for me, like, this whole last game is going to be a stay away. I get there's only 6 games, so you're going to fall into places where you want to play some of these guys. If I had to, pick between the three, I think we're going to want to take Bam at 8,200, attacking Mason Plumlee defense. I believe he has some extra scoring upside tonight, and he has been passing the ball well, coming off a triple-double, a few games ago. So he would be my favorite, followed by Jimmy Butler. But really no love here for me. And yeah, that's where we stand. So to kind of reiterate, I think through the 6-game slate, we're going to find ourselves in a decision between Joker and Luka, and we're going to have a ton of center options. And they're all going to be low owned because I believe a lot of these guys are going to go here to the Mason Plumlee at 42. And Porzingis, if he does get the start, will get some love as well. So I can see a lot of ownership going to Porzingis and Plumlee lineups, which offers you so much upside if those two guys don't play well and you want to play one of the Bam, Pirtle, Lively Gafford, Durant at low ownership, Cat at low ownership. Well, I guess we don't have projected Cat at low ownership, but you guys kind of get my drift here. I believe center is the way to get different tonight, and I believe you getting the stud correct is obviously going to lead you to the top of the leaderboards. Appreciate you watching on this Saturday. Like I said, one more time to reiterate, we're going to stop running this deal, so everybody hop on it. I mean, 50% off your first month is an absolute steal. You just don't see discounts like that around the industry, and you don't see communities like us around the industry. Every sport, every day, morning, day, and night, chatting strategy, chatting, all of our winners, chatting about next week's football games on Tuesday. It's a great community, and, it's something you're missing out if you're not a part of it. But guys, appreciate the listen. I'm going to hop in, do the slate plan now. Hit me up with any questions in Discord. I'm really going to work on keeping these videos shorter as this one's like 33 minutes. So apologize for that, but appreciate the listen. Everybody, good luck, and let's ship it.